All right, guys, let's talk about this combining like terms test. Now, hopefully you've already looked at your score in student or in SchoolNet and you saw which questions you've got wrong, because as we're going through this, if you got the question correct and you feel like you've mastered it, you may skip the question. Only if you got it correct. If you did not get it correct, I want you to watch and see what your mistake was. Now, if we simplify the expression, we have 3 times the quantity of x minus 1 minus 2 times the quantity of x minus 9. My first step, and I'm going to rewrite it over here just so I have room, is I need to make sure I'm distributing. Anytime you have a number out in front of a set of parentheses, you need to distribute that number to everything inside the parentheses. And treat your parentheses like your starting and your stopping point. So this 3 is going to distribute to the x and to that negative 1. Now, the one thing we need to remember, there's no coefficient in front of that x, so I'm going to put a 1 there to remind myself. 3 times 1x becomes 3x, and 3 times negative 1 becomes negative 3. Now, the important part with this second set of parentheses is I'm distributing a negative 2. We're not just distributing a positive 2 and bringing the subtraction sign down. If I distribute a negative 2, it's going to go to both numbers inside of those parentheses. Again, I'm going to give my x a coefficient of 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 9 is positive 18x. And please make sure you check yourself in your calculator. Sometimes we mix up signs because we're going too fast. Make sure you type it in and double check yourself. Now, from here, we need to be able to combine like terms, anything that has the same variable with the same exponent. I have 3x and I have a negative 2x. It's important we circle that negative sign in front of it, because if we don't want to combine 3x and 2x. It's treated like a negative x. We can also combine my constants. I have a negative 3 and I have a positive 18. Well, if I combine circle with circle, I have 3x minus 2x, which gives me 1x, and I have negative 3 plus 18 with my squigglies gives me a positive 15. Now, that 1 is just there as a placeholder, just as a visual reminder. So if I look at letter B, I have the same answer, x plus 15. Again, second question, we want to simplify our expression. We have 1/3 times the quantity of 6x minus 9 plus 5x. Now, again, we have a number out in front of our parentheses, so we're going to distribute that 1/3 throughout it. Please keep in mind, we're distributing it only to the numbers inside the parentheses. My parentheses stops after the 9, so we're not going to distribute it to the 5x. Now, you can either use your calculator. If you prefer to do it in your head, you're going to multiply and then divide. So this gives me 2x. 1/3 times negative 9 gives me negative 3. And I'm just going to bring down plus 5x. We didn't have to distribute to it, so we're just going to bring it straight down. From here, if we want to combine like terms, I have a 2x and I have a positive 5x. Well, 2x plus 5x is 7x, and I'm just bringing down my constant of negative 3. So in this case, our final answer is 7x minus 3. Make sure we're not combining that negative 3 with anything, because there are no other constants in our problems. Number 3, again, we want to distribute, we want to combine like terms. So if I look at my problem, this time I have 2 variables, but that's okay, that doesn't change our problem. My first set of parentheses, I'm going to distribute the 4 and the x to both terms on the inside. Well, 4 times 3 gives me 12, and I have both x and y, so I'm just going to put xy. We can't add them, multiply them, subtract them, so we're just going to bring them down. A 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Don't forget your x because you're distributing negative or positive 4x too. In my second set of parentheses, we don't have a coefficient out in front of the parentheses, so I'm going to add a 1 there. Now I'm going to distribute a negative 1 to both pieces inside the parentheses. Well, negative 1 times 8y is negative 8y, and negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Now, from here, we want to look at combining like terms. The thing to keep in mind, they have to have the same variables and the same exponent. 12xy, although it has an x in it, it cannot be combined with negative 8x because it does not have an x in it. So in this case, this is our final answer. We want to make sure it's alphabetical order. Well, x comes before y in the alphabet, so we're good to go. And our correct answer would be choice A. Now be careful because a lot of you chose choice B. When you have -1 out in front of the parentheses, -1 times -1 gives me a +1. Now, if we look at our fourth example, we're distributing both a whole number and we're distributing a fraction. So, if I look to my first set of parentheses, I want to distribute that +3. So again, we're going to stop after the parentheses. So in this case, 3 times 2x gives me 6x. 3 times a -4, or 6x squared, 3 times a -4 gives me a -12x. My second set of parentheses, we're going to distribute the fraction to both numbers. And again, you may use your calculator. If you prefer to do it in your head, just make sure you check your math on your calculator. 1/5 times 5 is +1x. 1/5 times -20 is -4x squared. Please be careful with these variables. You have x and you have x squared. Make sure you're bringing down the correct variable, because if you don't and you bring down the wrong variable, that can throw off your whole problem. Well, now we want to combine like terms. I have a 6x squared and I have a -4x squared. I have a -12x and a +1x. Now that I have circled and underlined my terms that are the same with the same variable and the same exponent, we want to combine them. So 6 minus 4 gives me 2, and I'm going to leave the x squareds there. It's like saying 6 oranges minus 4 oranges. Well, it doesn't just give you 2, it gives you 2 oranges. I have -12x plus 1x gives me a -11x. So my final answer would be B, 2x squared minus 11x. If we look at question 5, this one looks a little different because the distributing is not right at the beginning of the problem. However, you still distribute exactly the same. And think of order of operations. Some people tried to do 11 minus 8 right off the bat. Well, that's saying subtraction, and when I distribute my 8 through, we're multiplying. Well, multiplication comes before subtraction, so we need to still follow that order of operations. We're going to distribute a -8 through. I'm not distributing to the 11, so I'm going to bring it down. -8 times 7a is -56a. -8 times -10 is +80b. And I'm just going to bring down the 56a because I didn't distribute to it. Well, now, if we go to combine our like terms, I have a -56a, and I have a +56a. I have an 11, which is my constant, but it can't be combined with the 80b because it has a variable. So in this case, the only terms that can be combined are -56a and +56a. Well, -56 plus 56 is 0. If it is 0, we don't write it down because 0 times a, no matter what value I give you for a, is always going to be 0. So I'm just left with 80b plus 11, or 11 plus 80b, which we're going to put in alphabetical order to become 80b plus 11. Make sure you watch this video, come ask any questions before you're ready to retake, and then let us know when you're ready.